My name is Willa Langford, and I'm 41 years old. This morning, my sister, the one who vanished from our lives 7 years ago without a phone call, without a birthday card, who didn't even show up to our mother's funeral, knocked on my front door wearing a black dress, standing next to a man in a gray suit carrying a leather briefcase. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'm contesting the will. My dad just passed." He left me his house, the one he built with his own hands, valued at $415,000, and dollars my sister thinks she's owed a piece of it, after 7 years of silence. She didn't know that Dad had been preparing for this exact moment, and all I needed was one piece of paper before I tell you what happened. But please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy the story. And while you're here, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now, let me take you back 7 years to the night Renee walked out of this house for the last time. It was a Thursday in October. I remember because Mom had made pot roast, her Thursday tradition, and the whole house smelled like garlic and rosemary. Dad sat at the head of the table, same spot he'd occupied for 30 years. Mom was across from him. I was to his left. Renee was to his right, and she hadn't touched her plate. She'd driven in from Columbus that afternoon with a folder. Inside was a printout from a real estate site. Our house, estimated value, a number circled in red ink. "Sell it," she said. "Split the money 4 ways. I need $200,000 to start over." Her divorce from Craig had just finalized. She'd lost the apartment. Her credit cards were maxed. She needed a lifeline, and she decided our parents' home was it. Dad set his fork down. "This house isn't for sale, Renee. It's just walls and wood, Dad. It's our home. Your home, not mine, not anymore." Mom reached for Renee's hand. Renee pulled away. "If you won't help me, then I have nothing left to say to any of you." She pushed back from the table, grabbed her keys off the counter. Mom started crying, quiet, the way she always cried, like she was apologizing for her own tears. At the front door, Renee turned around. She wasn't looking at Mom or Dad. She was looking at me. "You're going to rot in this house taking care of them, and nobody will ever thank you." The screen door slammed. Her headlights swept across the front yard, then nothing. I cleared her plate, washed it, put it back in the cabinet. Dad sat at the table for another hour without speaking. Mom went to bed early. That was the last time I saw my sister for 7 years. The first year I called every week. Voicemail. Texts went unread. I mailed a Christmas card to her last known address. It came back unopened. The second year, Mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 3. I found out on a Tuesday afternoon in the oncologist's office, sitting in a plastic chair that squeaked every time I shifted. Mom held my hand and said, "Don't tell your sister." I told her anyway, left a voicemail, sent a letter, nothing. I rearranged my shifts at the clinic, mornings with patients, the afternoons driving Mom to chemo at the hospital 40 minutes away. I learned which gas stations had clean bathrooms along the route because the drugs made her sick without warning. I memorized the nurses' names. I packed saltine crackers in a Ziploc bag every single time. Mom fought for 2 years. She died on a Sunday morning in March at home in the bedroom she'd shared with Dad for 43 years. I was holding her left hand. Dad was holding her right. 47 people came to the funeral. Our pastor, her book club, neighbors, the woman from the dry cleaners who always saved Mom's favorite hangers. 47 people showed up to say goodbye to Linda Langford. Renee wasn't one of them. Dad didn't say her name that day. He sat in the front pew, shoulders straight, jaw set. He held my hand during the hymn. When we got home, and he went to the kitchen and made himself a cup of coffee, and I noticed his hands shaking for the first time in me life. After the funeral, something shifted. I'd find Dad late at night sitting at the kitchen table, sorting through the old file cabinet, folders, bank statements, writing things down in his small, careful handwriting. I assumed it was grief taking shape, congestive heart failure. That was the diagnosis 14 months after Mom died. The cardiologist explained it like a math problem. Fluid, pressure, percentages, and I sat there translating it into what it actually meant. My father's heart was giving out. I'd spent 12 years as a nurse at the Hadley Community Clinic. I knew what CHF looked like. I knew the trajectory. So I did what I'd always done. I showed up. I managed his medications and cooked low-sodium meals he complained about with a grin, drove him to appointments, helped him into the shower on bad days, slept with my bedroom door open so I could hear if he called out at night. Our neighbor Doris Petton brought over a casserole every Wednesday. She'd been next door for 25 years. She'd sit with Dad on the porch while I ran to the pharmacy, and I'd come back to find them arguing about the Reds' pitching rotation. "You're a saint, Willa," Doris said one afternoon. "He'd do the same for me." Not everyone saw it that way. At a family gathering that spring, my cousin Lisa pulled me aside and said, "People are talking. You know, they say you're just staying for the house." I didn't respond to that. I finished my plate, helped clean up, and drove Dad home. One evening in late August, and Dad was sitting up in bed, more alert than he'd been in weeks. He motioned me closer. "I need you to call Gerald Marsh tomorrow." Gerald Marsh, the attorney on Main Street, 30 years in practice. Dad had never mentioned a lawyer to me before. "Okay, Dad, I'll call him." "Good." He squeezed my hand. "And Willa, don't ask me what it's about. Not yet." I didn't. He was still my father. Wasn't my place to question him. Dad died at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday in October. Exactly 7 years and 2 days after Renee walked out, I was beside him. His breathing had changed around midnight, slower, with longer pauses between each one, like he was deciding whether to take the next. I knew the sound. I'd heard it at the clinic more times than I could count. But knowing what it means and sitting through it with your own father are two completely different things. His last breath was quiet. No struggle, just a long exhale, and then the room was still. I sat with him for 10 minutes before Eicheled 911. I don't know why. Maybe I needed the silence. Maybe I needed to say the things I hadn't said yet. Or maybe I just wasn't ready to let strangers into the room. His coffee mug was still on the nightstand, half full, already cold. I planned the funeral alone, picked the flowers, white lees, his favorite, same as Mom's service, wrote the obituary, called Pastor Davies, sorted through his closet for the navy suit he wore to Mom's funeral, the only suit he owned. I didn't try to contact Renee. I hadn't had a working number for her in over 3 years. Her old email bounced, and honestly, even if I'd had a way to reach her, I wasn't sure I would have. That sounds cold. Maybe it is, but I'd watched my mother die asking for her younger daughter, and that daughter never came. I wasn't going to set myself up for that again. The service was small, 40 people. The same community that had carried us through Mom's death showed up for Dad's. I stood at the podium and talked about a man who built things. Bookshelves, porches, a family. I didn't mention Renee. Nobody asked. Gerald Marsh's office was on the 2nd floor above the hardware store on Main Street. Wood-paneled walls, a brass desk lamp, and a window that looked out over the parking lot of the Presbyterian church. He'd been practicing law in Hadley for 30 years, and he looked exactly like what you'd expect. White hair, reading glasses, yet a handshake that meant something. "Will, thank you for coming in." He opened a manila folder. Inside was Dad's will, dated 18 months before his death, witnessed by Gerald and his paralegal, notarized. "Your father left the house and all associated property to you. Full ownership, no conditions." I stared at him. "And Renee?" Gerald glanced at the document. "Renee receives a bequest of $1. I blinked. $1? It's a deliberate provision. It ensures no one can argue that your father accidentally overlooked her. He specifically included her to make it clear the exclusion was intentional." I sat back in the chair. The leather creaked. "Can she contest it?" "She can try, but your father was thorough." Gerald paused. "He came to me 18 months ago with very clear instructions. He was sharp, fully competent. I documented everything." Gerald reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a sealed envelope, cream-colored, Dad's handwriting on the front. "Just my name, Willa. Your father told me to give you this only if Renee comes back for the house, not before." Those were his exact words. I held the envelope. It was heavier than I expected. "Do I open it now?" "Only if she shows up." That's what he wanted. I drove home, put the envelope in the kitchen drawer next to the measuring cups. For some reason, it felt right there, tucked between the ordinary things that held our daily life together. I didn't open it. 2 weeks after the funeral, the messages started. First, it was Aunt Carol. "Honey, did you see what Renee posted on Facebook?" Then, "Cousin Lisa, you might want to look at your sister's page. I hadn't been on Facebook in months. Hadn't needed to. But that evening, I pulled it up on my phone, typed Renee's name, and there it was, a public profile. Hundreds of posts stretching back over a year, and every single one told the same story, just not the real one. My family chose a house over their own daughter. I was cut off for speaking the truth. Grief doesn't care about grudges, but apparently my family does. And then the most recent one posted 3 days after Dad died. My father just passed. I wasn't even told. I had to find out through a stranger's Facebook post 7 years of silence, and they couldn't even give me a phone call. 412 reactions at 209 comments, hearts, crying emojis, paragraphs from strangers telling Renee how brave she was, how toxic her family sounded, how she deserved better. Nobody in those comments knew that Dad had begged her to come home. Nobody knew about the voicemails, the letters, the unanswered texts. Nobody knew she'd missed her own mother's funeral. My hands were shaking. I could feel the anger crawling up the back of my neck, hot, electric. I could have written a response. I could have posted the truth right there in her comment section and let the internet sort it out. But my father had just died, and I wasn't going to turn his death into a comment section. I put my phone face down on the counter, poured a glass of water, drank it standing at the sink, till one comment at the bottom of Renee's post caught my eye before I looked away. "Yao should get a lawyer. That's your inheritance, too." The phone rang on a Friday morning while I was making coffee. Unknown number, area code I didn't recognize. "Miss Langford, my name is Nathan Driscoll. I'm an attorney representing your sister, Renee Langford Hale." I set the mug down. "I'm listening." His voice was polished. Careful. The kind of careful that comes from knowing exactly how much he's being paid per hour. "Ms. Langford Hale would like to discuss the terms of your father's estate, specifically the disposition of the family home." "It's not the family home. It's my home. My father left it to me." A brief pause, paper shuffling on his end. "Ms. L. Langford Hale believes there may be grounds to contest the will on the basis of undue influence. She's concerned that the testamentary document doesn't reflect your father's true wishes. Undue influence. The legal way of saying I manipulated a dying man. My father made his decision with a clear mind. His attorney can confirm that. You understand? Ms. Langford Hale would prefer to resolve this amicably. She's suggesting an in-person meeting." I looked out the kitchen window. Dad's bird feeder was still hanging from the oak tree. A cardinal sat on the rim, tilting its head. "Fine. I'm hosting a memorial gathering for my father next Saturday. She can come after that. We'll talk at the house. I'll relay that to my client. Mr. Driscoll, yes, tell her to bring whatever paperwork she wants. I'll be here." I hung up. Maz stood there for a moment with my hand still on the phone. The cardinal was gone. I wasn't going to hide from this. If Renee wanted to come back and stake her claim, she could do it where people knew us, in the house she abandoned. In front of the neighbors who watched me carry our parents through the end. Let her bring her lawyer. I'd be at the kitchen table. Let me pause here for a second. My sister hadn't spoken to us in 7 years. She didn't come to our mother's funeral. And now she had a lawyer calling messing I manipulated our dying father. If you've ever been the one who stayed, the one who showed up every single day while someone else disappeared and then got accused of having an agenda, you know exactly what that feels like. If this story is hitting close to home, leave a comment and tell me. I'm reading every single one. All right, back to what happened next. Saturday came with a pale October sky and the smell of cinnamon from the apple cake Doris brought over at 8 in the morning. "I'm adetwo," she said, setting them on the counter. Harold would have eaten one himself. By 11, the house was full. 28 people, neighbors, friends from Dad's woodworking club, a few of his old clients, the postman who delivered our mail for 19 years. The dining table was covered with casseroles, pie, fried chicken, and a plate of sugar cookies from the ladies at First Presbyterian. Frank Hewitt, Dad's closest friend, as a retired carpenter who'd worked alongside him for 20 years, stood by the mantel with a cup of coffee and told the story about the time Dad measured a cabinet wrong by 1/8 of an inch and tore the whole thing apart to start over. "Every nail, every board," Harold wrote it down, Frank said, shaking his head with a sad smile. "That man could account for a penny from 1987. People laughed. The warm kind. The kind that comes from knowing someone so well that even their stubbornness is something you miss. I stood at the kitchen sink washing a serving spoon, listening. The house felt alive in a way it hadn't since Mom died. Dad was in every corner. The shelves he built, the trim he stained, the squeaky third step he kept saying he'd fix. I was drying my hands on the kitchen towel when the doorbell rang. The living room went quiet, not all at once, in a wave. Conversations trailed off, heads turned. I draped the towel over the oven handle and walked toward the front door. Through the glass panel, I could see a black dress, a gray suit, a leather briefcase. I already knew who it was. I opened the door. Renee stood on the porch in a black sheath dress and oversized sunglasses. Even though the sky was overcast, her hair was different, shorter, blonder. She looked thinner. Beside her, Nathan Driscoll wore a charcoal suit and held a leather briefcase close to his body like a shield. Behind me, the living room had gone dead silent. I could feel every pair of eyes. Renee pulled off her sunglasses. Same blue eyes as Mom, same jawline as Dad. She scanned the room, the people, the food, at the photos of Harold on the mantel and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. I would have been here sooner, but nobody told me Dad was sick. I had to find out he died from a Facebook post. A murmur rippled through the room. Someone near the window set down a plate. I held the door open wider. "You're welcome to stay, Renee. There's food. I'm not here for the casserole, then what are you here for? You know exactly why I'm here." Doris Petton stepped forward from the kitchen doorway, her hands still dusted with flour. She didn't say anything yet, just positioned herself where she could see everything. Nathan Driscoll cleared his throat. "Perhaps we could speak somewhere private, Miss Langford." "She's my sister," I said. "She can say whatever she needs to say." Renee's chin lifted at that old gesture, the one she used when she was about to dig in. I recognized it the way you recognize weather. You don't have to think about it. You just know what's coming. "Fine," she said. She stepped inside. The door closed behind them, and the memorial was no longer a memorial. It was something else entirely. Renee didn't sit down. She stood in the middle of the living room between the coffee table and the fireplace and turned to face the room like she'd rehearsed it. "I need all of you to know something." Her voice cracked on the first syllable, and I couldn't tell if it was real or performance. Maybe both. My father's will was changed in the last year of his life. Willow was the only person with access to him. She isolated him from the rest of the family. She influenced him. And now she inherits a $415,000 house while I get nothing. The room shifted, feet shuffled. Someone near the hallway crossed their arms. Frank Hewitt set his coffee down on the mantel and stared at Renee like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "That's not true," Doris said from the kitchen doorway. Her voice was flat, certain. "Wouldn't isolate anybody." She fed him, bathed him, drove him to every appointment for 3 years. Renee didn't look at Doris. She had 7 years to work on him. 7 years alone with him with no one watching. Another murmur. A few heads turned toward me. I could see it, the doubt creeping in. Not in everyone, but in enough faces to feel like a draft through a closed window. "I loved my father," Renee continued, "and I deserved to know why he would do this to me. Unless someone told him to." Her eyes locked on mine. Nathan Driscoll opened his briefcase and pulled out a document. He held it up just enough for me to see the header. "We filed a formal notice of intent to contest the will." The room exhaled. I could hear the clock on the wall. Dad's clock, the one he built from a kit the year I turned 12. Tick, tick, tick. I looked at the document in Nathan's hand. Then at Nathan, then at my sister. "Okay," that was all I said, one word. And I watched it land on Renee's face like cold water. She'd expected something, a fight, tears. A door slammed in her face. She'd come armed, a lawyer, a speech, an audience. She'd planned for assistance. She had not planned for calm. "We can talk about this," I said. "But not here, not now." Dad's friends are here to remember him. You can sit down, eat, and we'll talk tomorrow morning. I didn't come here to eat pie and pretend we're family. Nobody's pretending anything, Renee. The silence was thick enough to lean against. Doris stood with her arms folded, watching Renee the way a woman watches a storm cloud approaching her garden. Frank hadn't moved. A few people near the door started pulling on their jackets, not leaving out of disrespect, but out of the instinct to give a family its privacy. Nathan touched Renee's elbow, a subtle gesture, lawyer to client. Perhaps tomorrow would be appropriate. Renee looked around the room one more time. She was searching for allies and finding none. Every face in that room had watched me carry groceries to Dad's truck, had waved to me from their driveways as I loaded oxygen tanks into the back seat. They didn't need to say whose side they were on. Their presence said it. Renee sat down in the chair by the window. Nathan stood beside her, briefcase closed. The memorial resumed quieter, stiffer, like a song that had lost its rhythm. I went back to the kitchen, picked up the serving spoon I'd been washing, finished drying it. "This is Dad's memorial," I said to no one in particular. "We're going to finish it properly." The last hour of the memorial was quieter. People spoke in lower voices, glanced toward the corner where Renee sat, scrolling through her phone, and said their goodbyes with longer hugs than usual. Frank Hewitt was one of the last to leave. At the door, he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Your dad was the most organized man I ever met. Ben built a whole house addition once and was only off budget by $11. I smiled. "That sounds like him. He kept records of everything, Willa, everything." Frank's eyes held mine for a beat longer than casual. Then he nodded and walked to his truck. After the last guest left, except for Renee and Nathan, who were standing by their rental car in the driveway, I started clearing plates. Doris helped. We worked in silence for a few minutes, the way women do when there's too much to say and not enough space to say it. "She's coming back tomorrow," Doris asked. "That's the plan. You want me here?" I hesitated then. "Yes, I think I do." Doris squeezed my arm and left through the back door. Alone in the kitchen, I washed the last dish and stood at the sink, looking out at the backyard. Then the maple tree Dad planted when I was 5 had turned gold. Leaves drifted down like slow confetti. I thought about what Frank said. Everything. Harold wrote everything down. The late-night sessions at the kitchen table after Mom died, the file cabinet, the careful handwriting. 6 months before he passed, Dad had said something to me while I was adjusting his pillows. "I'm not leaving you with a mess, sweetheart. I'm leaving you with a clean house." I'd thought he meant it literally. I was starting to think he didn't. Renee and Nathan left around 6. She didn't say goodbye, just got in the passenger seat and closed the door. Nathan nodded at me from across the yard, a tight, professional nod, and drove away. I locked the front door, poured the last of the coffee down the sink, and then I called Gerald Marsh and he picked up on the second ring. "I heard," he said before I could explain. "Small town, word travels. She has a lawyer, Gerald. He's talking about undue influence." "I know, and Willa, I want you to listen carefully. Your father anticipated this. That's exactly why he came to me 18 months ago. He was sharp, clear-headed. I watched him sign every document myself. I pressed the phone to my ear and closed my eyes. The envelope I gave you, that's his answer to exactly what Renee is doing right now. Open it tonight," he said. "Only if she came back. She came back." A pause. I could hear Gerald breathing steady, measured, the breath of a man who'd sat across from 100 families in crisis and never lost his composure. "Gerald, if she files on undue influence, but what happens? She has to prove Harold was either incompetent or coerced. His doctor confirmed his mental competency during a routine checkup 4 months before he died. I have that on record. I was present for every signing. My paralegal witnessed it. Renee's case has no foundation, Willa." But the letter, that's what takes the fight out of it entirely. Harold wasn't a man who left loose ends. You know that. I do. I hung up the phone, stood in the kitchen with just the hum of the refrigerator for company. Then I walked to the drawer next to the stove, moved the measuring cups aside, picked up the envelope. It was time. I sat down at the kitchen table. Dad's chair, the one with the worn armrest on the left side from where he used to rest his elbow every night. The envelope was sealed with clear tape. The way Dad sealed everything, neat, deliberate. I slid my thumb under the flap and pulled out the contents. 2 handwritten pages in Dad's small block letters, the same handwriting that had labeled every tool in his workshop, every jar in the pantry. Behind the letter were 6 pages of bank transfer records, each one stamped, dated, and notarized. 14 transactions, 8 years. The letter began. Willa, if you're reading this, Renee came back. I'm sorry you have to deal with it. I tried to make sure you wouldn't have to, but I know my younger daughter. She'll come when there's something to take. I kept reading. Dad had listed every dollar he'd sent Renee between the time she was 22 and the night she left at 30. 14 transfers, everyone documented with a bank reference number, credit card debt, and security deposit, car repair, divorce attorney, personal loans, 6 of them, none repaid. The total was written at the bottom of the second page, underlined twice in blue ink, $218,000. Beneath the number, Dad had written one more paragraph. I loved both my daughters equally, but I already gave Renee her share. She just chose to forget. The house isn't a reward, Willa. It's just me making sure you always have a home. I set the letter down on the table, pressed my palms flat against the wood, and I cried. Not because I was angry, not because I felt vindicated, but because my father had been dying, and in the middle of dying, he was still thinking about how to protect me. Tomorrow, Renee would be back, and she had no idea what Dad left behind. I was up at 6, couldn't sleep anyway. I made a full pot of coffee, the good kind, chant the dark roast Dad kept in the freezer, and set out 4 mugs on the kitchen table. 2 for guests, 1 for Doris, 1 for me. The envelope sat underneath Mom's old cookbook on the counter, close but not obvious. At 8:30, Doris came through the back door carrying a plate of blueberry muffins. She set them on the counter without a word and sat down at the table like a woman settling in for weather. "You ready?" she asked. "I think so." "Good, because I've been ready since yesterday." At 9 sharp, the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on my jeans and went to the door. Renee stood on the porch in a black blazer and slacks, gold bracelet, hair pulled back. She looked like she was heading to a deposition, not her father's kitchen. Nathan Driscoll was behind her. Same gray suit, fresh briefcase. "Come in. The coffee is ready." Renee stepped inside and stopped when she saw Doris at the table. Why is she here? She was here every week for 4 years. She earned her seat. Renee's mouth tightened, but she didn't push it. She sat across from Doris. Nathan sat beside her. I poured 4 cups of coffee and placed them without asking. Cream was already on the table. Sugar in the bowl Mom got for their 20th anniversary. The kitchen was bright. Morning sun came through the east window and caught the wood grain of the table. The table Dad had built from a slab of white oak the year I was born. "Sit anywhere you like," I said. "This is still Dad's table." The room settled. Nathan opened Edhi's briefcase and the real conversation began. Nathan laid a folder on the table between us. Crisp edges, typed pages. "Miss Langford, we appreciate your willingness to meet. My client's position is straightforward." He adjusted his glasses. "Miss Langford Hale believes the will executed 18 months prior to Harold's death does not reflect his true intentions. She is concerned that her father's declining health created conditions susceptible to outside influence." He paused, practiced, waiting for me to fill the silence. I didn't. Renee leaned forward. "Dad would never cut me out, not on his own. He loved me." "He did love you," I said. Then someone got to him. Someone convinced him to change things. She stared at me across the table. "You were the only one here, Willa. You controlled everything. His medicine, his meals, who he talked to, who he saw." Doris spoke from her chair, voice level as a plumb line. "Thorold drove himself to the hardware store until 6 months before he died. He made his own coffee every morning until January." Renee didn't look at her. "This isn't about you, Doris. It's about the truth, and you don't seem to have much interest in that." Nathan raised a hand, a referee's gesture. "Our position is that mediation is the preferred first step. If that fails, we will file a formal contest in probate court." He slid a page across the table. Alternatively, Miss Langford, you could resolve this now. A 50-50 split of the property value, $27,500 each dollars. It's what your father would have wanted. Renee nodded. That's fair. That's all I'm asking for. I wrapped my hands around my mug. The coffee was still hot. I could feel the heat soaking into my palms. I didn't answer, not yet. Renee watched me for a moment. Yay. Then she shifted tactics. The way someone shifts gears when they realize the road isn't going where they thought. Let's be honest, Willa. She set her coffee down. Her voice dropped lower, more intimate, like she was confiding, not accusing. You stayed because you had nowhere else to go. No husband, no kids, no life outside this house. You latched on to Mom and Dad because they were the only people who couldn't leave you. The kitchen went rigid. Doris's muffin stopped halfway to her mouth. Nathan's pen stilled over his notepad. Even the refrigerator seemed to hush its hum. And when they got sick, you saw your opportunity. The beautiful daughter, the one who stays, the one who sacrifices, and all it cost you was a few years of bedpan duty for a $415,000 house. The words landed like stones dropped into a still pond, and I felt the ripples in my chest, not because she was right, but because she'd found the one fear I'd never spoken out loud. The late-night question I'd asked myself on the worst days. Am I here because I love him or because I don't know where else to be? I knew the answer. I'd always known the answer, but hearing it weaponized at my father's kitchen table made my throat tighten. Nathan shifted in his chair. He looked uncomfortable. This had gone beyond legal strategy into something he hadn't prepared for. You didn't sacrifice, Willa, Renee said, tilting her head. You invested. I set the mug down carefully, precisely, the way Dad set his tools down, each one in its place. I looked at my sister. Are you done? The room held its breath. I didn't raise my voice, didn't lean forward. My hands stayed flat on the table, but palms down, the same way Dad used to sit when he was about to say something that mattered. I have one question, Renee, and I need you to answer it honestly in front of everyone in this room. She blinked, a flicker of uncertainty, just a flash before her composure snapped back into place. Ask in the last 10 years, how much money did Dad give you? The pause that followed wasn't silence. It was the sound of a trap recognizing itself. Renee's lips parted slightly, her fingers pressed into the table. What are you talking about? It's a simple question. How much money did our father give you before you stopped speaking to us? Dad never gave me anything. Her voice was firm, rehearsed. She turned to Nathan like she was presenting evidence. That's the whole point. And he always chose this house and you over me. I let the words settle. Then I turned to Nathan. Mr. Driscoll, for the record, your client just stated in the presence of witnesses that she never received financial support from our father. Nathan glanced at Renee, then back at me, his pen hovered above the notepad. Yes, that appears to be her position. Good. I stood up, walked to the counter, picked up Mom's cookbook, the one with the cracked spine and the butter stain on page 47, and pulled the envelope from beneath it. I sat back down, placed the envelope on the table between Renee's coffee cup and mine. Then explained this. I opened the envelope slowly. No rush, no drama. The same way you open something you've been carrying for someone else. I placed the 2 handwritten pages face up on Thedable, and then the 6 pages of bank transfer records beside them. Every page notarized, every page dated. This is a letter our father wrote 14 months before he died. His attorney, Gerald Marsh, can verify it. His doctor confirmed his mental competency 4 months before he passed. I turned the pages so they faced Renee. 14 bank transfers over 8 years all to you. I pointed to the bottom of the second page, totaling $218,000. The number sat on the page like a verdict. Renee looked down. Her eyes moved across the first page, quickly at first, then slower. Her face didn't crumble. It didn't twist. It did something worse. It went flat. The kind of flat that comes when someone realizes they've been standing on a stage and the lights just came on. Nathan leaned in and he picked up the bank records, turned them one at a time. I watched his expression tighten with each page. The careful face of a man discovering his client had left out a few details. Doris sat perfectly still. Her hands were clasped on the table. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Renee's eyes stopped moving. She was staring at a specific line. I couldn't tell which one. Maybe the first transfer, maybe the last. Dad didn't forget you, Renee. My voice was steady, even the steadiest it had been all morning. He just kept receipts. She still hadn't looked up. The kitchen clock ticked. Sun moved across the floor. The coffee was getting cold. And Renee sat there reading the handwriting of a dead man who had loved her enough to count. I didn't need to read every line out loud, but I read enough. August 2014. A $38,000 credit card debt payoff. Transfer reference ending 4417. Renee's jaw tightened. March 2016, 12,000. Security deposit for your apartment in Columbus. Reference ending 8803. Her fingers curled against the table. November 2017. $45,000. Divorce attorney fees. Nathan set the bank records down gently. The way you set something down when you've seen enough. And then there are the personal loans, I continued. 6 of them across 4 years, totaling $63,000, not $1 repaid. I wasn't shouting. I wasn't accusing. I was reading numbers from a piece of paper in the kitchen where we'd grown up. At the table where Dad once helped us with fractions. The room had no sound except my voice and the clock. Doris was looking at the bank records with wide eyes. She'd known Harold wasn't a wealthy man. He was a carpenter who lived modestly in a house he built himself. $218,000 was nearly half of everything he'd earned in a lifetime. She'd given the money to Renee $1 at a time. And Harold had given it in lump sums again and again every time the phone rang and his younger daughter needed something. He never refused. He never told me. He just sent it. Nathan closed his briefcase quietly. The click of the latch was louder than it should have been. Renee still hadn't spoken. Her coffee cup sat untouched. A ring of condensation was forming on the table beneath it. I turned to the final page, Dad's handwriting. The paragraph at the bottom. There's one more thing, I said. Dad wrote this himself. My voice got quieter. I didn't plan it. It just happened. The way your voice changes when you're reading something sacred at someone else's table. I read his words aloud. I loved both my daughters equally, but love doesn't mean blind. I sent Renee $218,000 over 8 years. Every time she called, I wired it. She never once asked how I was paying for it. She never once asked about her mother's treatment. The last transfer I made was 2 weeks before she stopped speaking to us. She never said thank you. She never called again. I paused, took a breath, kept going. Willa never asked me for a cent. She moved home to help her mother. She stayed to help me. She gave up years of her own life so I wouldn't spend my last ones alone. The house isn't a reward. Now it's just me making sure she always has a home. I set the letter down. The kitchen was silent in a way I'd never heard it before. Not empty silence, but full silence. The kind that happens when everyone in a room is holding the same breath. Doris pulled a tissue from her sleeve and pressed it to her eyes. She didn't make a sound. Nathan stared at the table. His pen was capped, his notepad untouched. He knew any attorney would know that this letter, combined with the bank records, combined with the competency verification, made Renee's case disintegrate. Renee sat motionless. Her hands were flat on the table, palms down. Her lips were pressed together in a thin line. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She was just still. And in that stillness, the last 7 years of silence finally made a sound. The clock ticked. On the 11 times, maybe 12. I wasn't counting, but I felt everyone. Renee placed both hands on the edge of the table. She pushed back her chair. The legs scraped against the linoleum, a sound that used to drive Mom crazy. She stood up, reached for her bag on the back of the chair, looped the strap over her shoulder. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Doris. She didn't look at the letter or the bank records or the empty chair where Dad used to sit. She walked to the front door, opened it, stepped out onto the porch. Nathan gathered his briefcase. He paused at the table just for a second and gave me a small nod. It wasn't apologetic exactly. It was the nod of someone who understood that he'd walked into a room with half the story and just received the other half. Then he followed Renee out at the screen door, closed with a soft click, not a slam. Somehow that was worse. I heard the car doors shut, the engine start, gravel crunching as they pulled down the driveway. The sound faded until there was nothing left but the house. Doris put her hand on my shoulder. She didn't speak. She just left it there, warm, heavy, steady. The hand of a woman who had watched this family for 25 years and had just seen the last chapter close. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel relieved. I felt hollow. The way a house feels after everyone leaves, that wastil my sister walking out that door. And even though she'd earned every bit of what just happened, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the last page of a book I never wanted to finish. She didn't slam the door. That was somehow worse. And I sat at that table for a long time after she left. The coffee was cold. The letter was still open. And I kept thinking Dad knew. He knew she'd come back. He knew she'd lie. And he made sure I wouldn't have to fight alone. If your parents ever did something to protect you that you only understood after they were gone, tell me about it. I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. Now let me tell you what happened in the weeks after. 3 days later, Gerald Marsh called. Nathan Driscoll's office sent a formal letter this morning. They're withdrawing the notice of intent to contest. I was standing in the kitchen reheating the coffee I'd let go cold for the 3rd time that day. What reason did he give? Insufficient grounds to proceed. Gerald paused. Well, in plain English, he saw the bank records and told Renee she had no case. I leaned against the counter, closed my eyes. Willa, I want to explain something so you understand why this is over. The $218,000 your father documented exceeds half the value of the property. In Ohio, lifetime gifts to a beneficiary can be considered an advancement against inheritance. The court would look at those transfers and conclude that Renee already received her share, and then some. Combined with the competency verification from his doctor and my own witness testimony, there's nothing for her attorney to build on. And the undue influence claim. Harold's physician confirmed his mental clarity 4 months before he died. I was present for every document signing. My paralegal witnessed each one. Renee's only argument was that you controlled access to your father, and we have a dozen people, Doris, Frank Hewitt, the home health aide, who can testify Harold was making his own decisions right up until the last few months. A robin landed on the windowsill. I watched it for a moment. Gerald. Yes, he really did think of everything, didn't he? A warm chuckle on the other end. Your father was the most prepared client I ever had. He told me once, I can't stop Renee from coming back, but I can make sure Willa doesn't lose the house when she does. The will stood. The house was mine, and I could finally exhale. I didn't post anything. No response, no correction, no tell-all thread. I didn't write a single word online about what happened in that kitchen. I didn't need to. Hadley is a town of 8,000 people, and in a town that size, the truth doesn't need Wi-Fi. It travels over fences through church parking lots at the register of the IG grocery store. Doris told her friend Margaret. Margaret mentioned it to the women's Bible study, and within 2 weeks the real story had made its way through every block in town. Nobody organized a campaign. Nobody called Renee to confront her. It was quieter than that. The way a small town processes information, people just knew, and knowing changed things. Renee's Facebook post stopped. Her profile switched to private. The carefully constructed narrative, the wrong daughter, the stolen inheritance, the toxic family went dark. A few of the strangers who had once filled her comments section with sympathy started messaging me. One woman wrote, I'm sorry I believed her and I should have asked. I didn't reply to most of them. What would I say? They didn't owe me anything. They'd been told a story and believed it. That's what people do. I replied to one, a woman about my age from Indianapolis whose message was 3 lines long. I was the sister who stayed too. I know what it costs. I'm glad someone kept the receipts. I wrote back, you didn't know, it's okay. That was enough. I didn't need the internet to validate what I'd lived through. I just needed the truth in the room where it mattered. At Dad's table, in front of the people who were actually there. Renee's silence this time was her own choice, and I wasn't going to chase it. Probate took 4 months. Paperwork, filings, waiting periods. Gerald walked me through every step. and by February, the deed to the house was in my name, and I signed the last document in Gerald's office on a Tuesday morning. The same brass lamp, the same window overlooking the church parking lot. My signature looked small on the page. Dad's name was typed above mine as the former owner, and seeing it in official print made my chest tighten in a way I wasn't expecting. "Congratulations, Willa," Gerald said. "Doesn't feel like congratulations." "No, I suppose it doesn't." I drove home and stood in the front yard for a while, looking at the house. White paint a little chipped at the eaves, the porch Dad had rebuilt the summer I turned 16. Hand-planed railings, each one sanded smooth. The garden bed Mom planted with hostas that still came back every spring without anyone tending them. I didn't feel rich. I felt housed, rooted, like the ground under my feet was finally, legally, irrevocably mine. Inside, I walked room to room, living room, hallway, Mom and Dad's bedroom, which I still hadn't repainted. The kitchen. I stopped at the table and ran my hand along the surface. White oak, 41 years old, same age as me. That table heard every argument, every prayer, every silence I said out loud to nobody. It earned its place. I opened the kitchen drawer and placed Dad's letter back inside, right next to the measuring cups where it had started. The bank records went into the file cabinet in his workshop, filed under L for Langford. He built this house with his hands. I kept it with mine, and for the first time in years, the house didn't feel like a responsibility. It felt like home. Hadley moved on the way small towns do, slowly but with memory. Nobody organized a boycott against Renee, and nobody made public declarations. It was subtler than that. The families who had known us for decades simply adjusted their understanding. The way you adjust a picture frame that's been crooked so long you'd stop noticing. Renee Unke's old friend Jackie Morin stopped responding to her texts. The Hendersons, who had been friends with Craig's parents, sent me a card. "Thinking of you, Willa. Harold was a good man." The woman who cut Renee's hair in high school ran into me at the pharmacy and said, "I always knew you were the steady one." It didn't correct her. I didn't argue. I didn't use Renee's name as a punchline. When people brought it up, I said the same thing every time. "It's between me and my sister." That one sentence did more for my reputation than any Facebook post ever could have. But Doris told me one evening over dinner that Craig's parents had called her. They said they were sorry about everything. They always liked your father. Said Renee had told them you'd stolen from Harold while he was sick. I set my fork down. She told them that. She told a lot of people a lot of things. Doris shrugged. The truth caught up. I picked my fork back up and finished my green beans. The truth is I didn't want Renee to suffer. I didn't want her friendships to collapse or her reputation to erode. I just wanted her to stop lying about mine. And now that the lie had been corrected, not by me, but by Dad, the correction was doing its own quiet work. "You don't need to say a thing, honey," Doris said. "This town has ears of its own." 2 months after the kitchen table conversation, my phone rang. Late after 10, a number I didn't recognize, area code from Pennsylvania. I picked up and heard breathing, unsteady like someone who dialed and then lost the script. Willa. I hadn't heard her voice in 2 months. It sounded different, thinner, stripped down. The performance was gone. "I'm here." A long pause. I could hear something in the background, a television maybe, or traffic through an open window. I didn't know he kept track. I leaned against the kitchen counter. He kept track of everything. Renee, that's who he was. I know, another pause. I needed the money, the divorce, the custody fight. Craig's lawyers were bleeding me dry, and I didn't have anyone else to ask. "You had us, I couldn't come back. Not after what I said. You could have called and said what? Anything. Mom asked for you, every week during chemo, every single week. Silence, the long kind. The kind that holds everything neither person can say out loud. Are we ever going to be okay?" she asked. I looked at the kitchen table, at Dad's chair, at the drawer where his letter lived. "I don't know, but I'm not going to be the one who hangs up." She inhaled, held it, then the line went dead. No goodbye, no apology, just a click, and then the dial tone. The modern kind where there is no tone at all, just absence. I stared at the phone for a minute, then I set it down on the counter, screen up. I didn't delete the call from my history just in case. I didn't cry, but I left the kitchen light on that night. I don't know why. Maybe I was leaving it on for someone who'd never walk through the door again. I went back to the clinic full-time in January. Same schedule, same patients, same parking spot next to the dumpster that I'd claimed 6 years ago because nobody else wanted it. Dr. Reeves noticed me in the break room on my first week back and said, "How's the house still standing?" "Good. So are you." I started fixing things around the place on weekends. Small projects Dad hadn't gotten to. Replaced the lock on the hallway closet that had been sticky since 2019. Sanded and restained the windowsill in Renee's old bedroom. I didn't turn the room into storage. I didn't lock it. I just opened the window, let the February air cycle through, and left it as it was. On Saturdays, Doris came over for dinner. We cooked from Mom's recipe box. The index cards with butter, stains, and pencil corrections. Cornbread with honey, chicken soup with dumplings, green bean casserole that nobody in the world actually likes, but we made anyway because Linda Langford had made it every Thanksgiving for 40 years, and stopping felt like giving up. "Your mother would be proud of you," Doris said one night, wiping the counter. "She'd be mad I overcooked the biscuits." Doris laughed. "A real one, the kind that fills a kitchen. I didn't hate Renee. I want to be clear about that." I didn't lie awake wishing her harm or rehearsing arguments I'd never deliver. But I also didn't pretend everything was fine. It wasn't. She'd accused me of manipulating our dying father. She'd tried to take the roof over my head. She told strangers I was a thief. Forgiving someone doesn't mean inviting them back to the table. It means you stop carrying their plate. I didn't build this life. I just refused to abandon it as March came, and with it the itch to organize. I'd been putting off going through Dad's workshop, the small room off the garage where he'd spent 1,000 Saturday afternoons surrounded by sawdust and AM radio. I started with the tool bench, sorted the screwdrivers, tossed the stripped ones, labeled the rest the way he would have wanted, then the shelves, then the file cabinet. In the bottom drawer, behind a stack of old tax returns, I found a shoebox. Not a toolbox or a storage bin, an actual shoebox. Red lid, white base, the kind that holds a pair of size 11 work boots. Inside were birthday cards, 33 of them. Every single one I'd ever given my father from the time I was 8 years old to the one I'd handed him last October, 6 days before he died. They were arranged in order, earliest at the bottom, but most recent on top. Some were store-bought, some were handmade. Crayon drawings from elementary school, a glitter-covered disaster from middle school, a simple folded card from the year Mom died that said only, "Happy birthday, Dad, I'm glad I'm here." He'd underlined that last sentence in red pen. I sat on the workshop floor with the box in my lap, sawdust on my jeans. The light through the garage window made the concrete glow amber. 33 cards. He kept every single one. I'd spent 3 years wondering if he noticed me. Wondering if staying was enough. Wondering if the sacrifices registered or if they just blended into the background of a house that needed too much and a father who said too little. He noticed. Every year. He just showed it the way he showed everything. Quietly, carefully, and in a box nobody was supposed to find until he was gone. I didn't block Renee's number. I didn't delete her contact, but I didn't call her back either. If she wanted to rebuild something, she knew where I was. The porch light still worked. The door still opened. But I was done chasing someone who'd made running a way of life. What I did do was set a boundary with the rest of the family. One sentence delivered the same way every time someone brought it up. "I love all of you, but I won't discuss Renee's choices or mine. If you want to see me, come for dinner. I still make Mom's cornbread." It was remarkable how quickly that ended the conversations. People don't push when you're calm. They push when you're defensive. I gave them nothing to push against. In April, I sat down with Gerald one last time that he was retiring at the end of the year and wanted to make sure my affairs were in order. "You should have your own will," he said. "Start fresh. Your father would have wanted that." So I did. Simple, clean, no drama. The house goes to the Hadley Community Hospital if I pass without an heir. The furniture goes to Doris. The recipe box goes to the clinic break room where the nurses will argue about mom's cornbread ratio for years to come. This house served a family, I told Gerald as I signed the last page. It should serve a community. He smiled. Harold would have liked that. I stopped waiting for an apology from Renee, not because she doesn't owe me one. She does, but because my peace doesn't depend on her saying the words. I spent 7 years learning that lesson. My father spent his whole life trying to teach it. Then some debts settle themselves. Others you just sat down and walk away from. 6 months after Renee walked out of the kitchen, it was April again. The dogwoods along the fence were blooming, white petals drifting across the yard like confetti nobody threw. I sat on the porch in Dad's chair, the one with the wide armrests he'd planed by hand. The left armrest was worn down to a smooth, pale groove from 40 years of his elbow resting in the same spot. I rested mine there now. The coffee was the dark roast from the freezer. Last bag, I'd have to buy my own after this. Mrs. Patterson walked by with her terrier and waved. Morning, Willa, morning, June. The mail carrier honked twice as he passed, our signal since I was 12. I raised my mug. The house stood behind me, solid and imperfect. The paint was peeling at the southeast corner. One gutter needed retouching. The third step still squeaked, and I decided I was never going to fix it. Dad had always said he'd get to it. I figured if he didn't, nobody should. I thought about Mom, the way she'd stand at the screen door in the mornings and just breathe the air like she was collecting it. I thought about Dad. The sound of his saw in the garage on Saturdays, the coffee, the quiet. I thought about Renee. I didn't know what she was doing. I didn't know where she was living. I didn't know if she'd ever come back. But I knew this. I wasn't going anywhere. Dad built this house 50 years ago. Mom filled it with warmth. Renee left it. I kept it. And it kept me. Some people build empires. I just held on to what mattered. The porch creaked under the chair and the cardinal was back on the bird feeder. And for the first time in a very long time, the morning felt like enough. If you've ever been the one who stayed while someone else walked away and then came back only when there was something to take, I want you to know something. You weren't stupid. You weren't weak. You were loyal. And loyalty doesn't always get a thank you. Sometimes it gets a kitchen table and a cup of cold coffee and a letter from someone who noticed. You don't owe anyone a share of what you earned by showing up. And you don't have to scream to defend it. Sometimes the quietest answer is the loudest one in the room. My sister wanted $415,000. My father gave me something worth more than that. He gave me proof that staying mattered. Not in a speech, not in some grand gesture. It's in a shoebox full of birthday cards and a letter that said, I see you. I always saw you. I don't know what happens next with Renee. Maybe one day she'll drive down the road and pull into the down the road and pull into the driveway. Maybe she'll sit on the porch and we'll drink coffee and not say anything for an hour. Maybe that never happens. I've made peace with both possibilities. My dad was a carpenter. He built things that lasted. Shelves, porches, a family. I'd like to think he built me too. This is Will's story, but I have a feeling some of you have your own version. If you do, I'd love to hear it. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If Willa's story made you feel something, anger, relief, recognition, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me which moment hit you the hardest. Was it the letter, the phone call, the birthday cards? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire the next one. And if you haven't seen it yet, check the description below for another story you might love. It's about a woman whose mother-in-law tried to rewrite her wedding vows. Trust me, you'll want to hear that one. I'll see you there.